17, just turned 42 this year. When I was 17, I started in the grocery wholesaling business. Now, this is not your typical, what everybody thinks when I talk about grocery wholesaling. This is me and my father at the time going and buying a truckload of an item, like Tide detergent. So we would come into Kansas City or any number of cities around the country, and we would buy an entire truckload of a product where a manufacturer was selling it at a discount. So Procter & Gamble would come in here and say, listen, we need to get some market share. We need to sell some more Tide in Kansas City. So let's go there and flood the market, sell it cheap. So we would step in and buy trucks of it. And you know what we did, right? Turned it around and went and sold it in other markets where it wasn't being sold at a discount by the manufacturer. That's all we did. It's a form of arbitrage. Buy low, sell high, call it American capitalism, whatever it is. I didn't manufacture anything. I didn't make anything. I was the guy that just got in between and operated on inefficiencies in the market. This little business that I started when I was 23 years old was doing $50 million a year. Now think about what you were doing when you were 23. I would venture to say most of us in the room weren't running a $50 million a year company. And by the time I was 27, that little $50 million a year company was doing $800 million. And we had just been purchased by our largest competitor based out of South Florida, Boca Raton, Florida. That's how I moved from Memphis to Boca Raton. You may have ever been to Boca Raton? By the way, it could not be any further from Memphis, Tennessee. In every sense of that word. 180 degrees at the other end of the spectrum. Beverly Hillbillies, that was me, living it, right? Here I am, redneck from Memphis, Tennessee, and I moved down to, it's basically an East Coast version of Beverly Hills. And get down there and walk in the door. The guy that had just bought my company, 40-year-old guy, he's like, here you go, here's the keys. Take over my company now. Go run it. 27. Never been to college. I barely graduated from high school, and all of a sudden I'm running this $800 million a year company, and what do you know? All the same things we had done in Memphis, we started applying in Boca Raton. In 3 years, we were doing $1.8 billion with a B. Now, when you're running a $1.8 billion a year company, I can assure you, you're getting paid well to do that, right? So I was as naive and as full of myself as you can ever possibly imagine. From 17 to 30, I had never failed at anything. I was the golden boy. I mean, I had the cars. Couldn't have just one car, right? Got to have 3 cars, right? Have to have the Porsche, have to have the Land Rover, have to have the Lexus, have to live on the intercoastal down there, have to have the boat, have to have the jet skis. I mean, there's all that stuff, all that. And by the way, there's not one of you in here that would have done the exact same thing. Okay? So it was me just living the way I thought I was supposed to live. By the time I left there, it was the 7th largest privately held company in the state of Florida. It was we were all really proud of what we had done. But how did we turn it around? I mean, how did we take a $800 million a year company, which you got to admit, you got to be pretty naive, pretty cocky to walk into an $800 million a year company that had been in business for 10 or 12 years as a 27-year-old kid and say, oh man, we can do better. Right? I mean, how full of yourself do you have to be to do that? And I just didn't know any better. I mean, I'd grown up in an entrepreneurial family. That's just the way I had been raised. Just go. And how do we do it? How do we do it? Well, this is what we did. We started doing everything backwards. This is what I mean. This is the $800 million a year business. You don't have to write this down. I'm going to share it with you again in just a minute. This is what we did. We would go, and like I said, go buy a truckload of Tide, one market. Make sense? Get on the phone, start trying to get it sold. Had about 300 sales reps that worked for me. They were all commission reps. We've all seen pictures or movies of stock floors or bond floors, the trading floors. That's exactly what we were doing. The only difference is it was truckloads of groceries. I mean, you would have never known the difference if you were walking in there. We would find somebody to sell it to, close on the deal, and it was done. This was a $1.8 billion company. This is a $1 billion idea that I'm going to share with you right now. It's not some big epiphany. We would go off, and this is what I mean by doing things backwards. We went off to every single client that we had in the country and said, listen, if I could sell you anything on any day and deliver it in any quantity and deliver it at any price, tell me what that looks like. Is it 50 truckloads of Tide? Is it 50 truckloads of Folgers coffee? Is it 50 truckloads of Peter Pan? What is it? Tell me what it is that you want to buy from me. And let me go find it. We would then go and start working backwards. Everybody follow me? Now, I had a real big competitive advantage at that point. Because my competitors are sitting there trying to sell what everybody else had. I'm sitting there shopping for what my customers want. Click, light bulb. This is good stuff. This is exactly how all of a sudden we built the business. I would tell you to remember it this way. Shopping versus selling. I'll give you a real clever way to remember this. It will always be easier, ladies and gentlemen. Always be easier to find a property for your buyer than a buyer for your property. Always, always, always. If you want to flip 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 houses a month, you will never be able to do that by going off and buying them and then trying to sell them. Unless you have an army behind you. But you can absolutely do that if you go shopping for 40 houses that a buyer wants. And you can do it over and over and over again. Fair enough? All right, let's keep going. So, how did I get involved in real estate? Well, March 14th of 2000. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was a day of, I would say a day of infamy, but it was definitely a day, that's for sure. I walked in, and at 7:30 in the morning, I remember it, I mean, crystal clear. Told you guys I was pretty cocky, pretty naive. I thought $700,000 a year jobs would just never hand those out in the street corner. Man, I had no perspective whatsoever. I had never failed at anything, ladies and gentlemen. So, for me, I was a little full of myself. And I walked in there one morning and said, listen, I want you to tie me to the company. Let's go. When you gave me this company, we were doing $800 million a year, and you put in your pocket $15 million, Jeff, that year. Last year, 1999, we did $1.8 billion, and you put in your pocket $56 million. I put in $700,000. I want more. Give me a percentage of ownership. And he said no. And I quit right there and walked out the door. I said, okay, cool. You prepared for my resignation? He's like, no, I don't want that. He's like, you got it. And it was literally, I thought about it that much. And walked out the door. And walked down that sidewalk, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Oh my God. Heart's racing. And I'm just trying to figure out, what am I going to do? And I had about $1.6 million that I'd saved. And I decided right then, right there, before I even got to the car and opened the door and got in, I decided right then, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go start a business in this industry. And I'm going to spend every waking day making him regret that he let me walk out the door. That'd be the worst mistake he ever made. I'm going to go start this business. I'm going to go build it up. And we're going to go toe to toe. But instead of making him rich, make me rich. By the way, that is not a real bright way to start a business. I went out there and I was doing everything in my power to build this business at his expense. So let me try to go take your employees. Let me go try to take your customers. Let me go try and talk trash about you. Let me do everything I can to take business away from you and put it in my pocket. And it took him exactly 22 months to completely wipe me out. Because when you start doing that, they start getting these little things involved called attorneys. They don't like that. And those extra zeros in the bank account, they matter. He had a lot more of them than I did. And he made my life a living hell. He went after me with everything he had. As he should, by the way. I can say that now. You couldn't say it then. And it was horrible. It was horrible going through it. Because I'm trying to build a business, and in the meantime, what I'm really doing is destroying the business. And as fate would have it, December 2002, I had watched the bank account go from $1.6 million So $4 grand. Now, if you want a really good dose of humble pie, watch a bank account and chase it all the way down. And not only flame out, but flame out in dramatic, very public fashion and burn every bridge in an industry that you have built on the way down. So by the time I got to rock bottom, I literally had no way to make income because I burned every bridge around me. And nobody wanted to touch me. So